unmute yourself if you want to say something. Otherwise, here we go. All right, we're going to start at feet today. For any of you that also have ankle, lower leg, or knee stuff, we'll start right out with a short foot. So 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, not on a balance beam, but hip bone distance apart. And then bend your knees as far as you're able to. That's going to pull on the knee and the hip. Let the shoulders just relax. Keep your head balanced over and watch the tracking. Make sure that back foot, the foot is really straight. And then lift and press your front toes down on the floor. If you have knee stuff, you might feel crunchies in that knee, or sometimes you can even hear some bone on bone movement as the back side of your leg turns on by those presses. Lift your toes, press them down. And notice if your tailbone wants to tuck like that, let your body just be kind of in that neutral position. When you've done 20, switch sides. Coming into short foot on the second side, back foot straight, front foot right, like heel and toes almost in line, and then bend deeply into that knee. Ears over shoulders over hips, lift and press your toes. 20 times on this side. So the first thing that we do in Egoscue often is reduce rotation. So if there's rotation in your pelvis, rotation in your lower leg, rotation up the leg, this can help bring back that balance. Good. First side again. Back foot straight. Bend deeply into your knees, shoulders over hips, over knees. Lift and press your toes down. Lift, press. And switch. And coming around to that 20. Excellent. Come all the way up and standing arm circles, feet pointed straight ahead, arms into the golfer's grip, bring them out, pinch them onto your back, relax your stomach, feel both shoulder blades squeeze towards your spine. Just notice how that alters the back muscles and the rib cage, and then circle 40. and palms up, backwards. That's same squeeze, and circle them back for 40. So if there's rotation in the shoulders, this helps to bring that out. It could also begin to bring it out in your pelvis. And release. Okay, so we have muscles that squeeze your shoulder blades toward your spine. We also have muscles that push your shoulder blades off your spine. So I'm going to have you actually do another set of arm circles, but this time I want you to go arms in front of you. And instead of squeezing back and retracting the shoulder blades, I actually want you to push them off your back. So make them as wide as possible off your back. And then we'll just do 10 circles here, but holding that off so that the serratus and the lat get to work a little bit. The deltoid gets to work a little differently here, different angle. And feel your upper back get a little round. Shoulder blades pulling off your spine. And release. Now, I often think the body will move to the path of least resistance, so we end up kind of in that rounded position, but not necessarily like on purpose. Palms up, push your shoulder blades off your back, make the shoulder blades come around toward your armpit, and then palms up, circle 10 circles. And release. Good. Grab a block. We're going to stay with arm circles for just a little bit longer. Put a block between your upper inner thighs and squeeze onto it. Good. Then let's go elbows up, not quite like elbow curls, but hands just forward. Keeping everything in your trunk stiff, move your right arm out, bring it back together, and then left arm out and bring it back in. So that shoulder blade that we just found in those two different positions now gets to wrap from more toward the armpit, toward your spine, back toward the armpit. And your whole body gets to be still while the shoulder does that movement. Good. Now cactus arms and take it into a glide. See if I can go back a little bit more. Squeeze in on that block. Hold your adductors. That's going to make that line up your whole body work, and then reach one arm above you and bring it down. We'll do 10 again. Reach and down. Notice if it's clunky at all and see if you can find a different angle so that there's a smooth glide happening. Shoulder blade gets to move up, coming off your back, and slide down. Reach and lower. Last one. And then shoulder rolls up and back and around. You can go ahead and use that to move your upper back, move your spine just a bit. Feel it move all the way down to the low back. And up and around. And then back and down and around again. Excellent. Okay, grab your block and your strap and come down onto your hands and knees. Oh, let's do a few wrist rotations first before we begin to load that up. So we want our wrists to be able to go flat down on the floor comfortably. One way we can just test that is doing it without a load. So if you're just here, can you just take your hands, wrists back? And does that work to be in that position? Pull it back, open that space, line up the two bones in the forearm and all those little bones in your hands. Good. Fingers, spread them way out and bring them into a fist and spread them way out. And then a couple more rotations in the wrist. Great. Okay, we're still working on reducing some rotation in the body. So come down onto your hands and knees and decide how much arch works for your body. Now, Pete says, usually when you come to your hands and knees, you can let your belly hang toward the floor and your body will tell you with pinching sensation or something how much extension is too much or not okay. So get long. I know it's early, so just be mindful. If you feel pinching when your knees are behind your hips a little bit, then just bring your hips right over the top of your knees. But do place your block between your ankles. And then from this hands and knees position, really connect with the palm of your hand onto the ground. And then you could go fingertips so that the little bracing that you're doing with your fingertips is helping you to balance. But the whole palm is really working to be down on the ground, and then go ahead and let your shoulder blades sink. Let your chest fall toward the floor and let your head drop. And take about 3 deep breaths here. Just allow rotation in the shoulders, rotation in the rib cage, or rotation in the pelvis to begin to move out just in this position, but stay comfortable. And then at the block, squeeze the whole inside of your foot. So you're making that do a little external femur rotation, and you could even move your knees slightly wider if you need to, so that your feet are more narrow, and that will help your butt muscles engage by pressing your feet into the block. Good. Press and release. So we're kind of into those deep, deep, deep muscles at your pelvis. Press and release. We'll do 2 sets of 20 here. And if as you do it, you feel okay to have your hips slightly ahead of your knees, and that still feels okay in your back, listen to that. Coming up to my first set of 20, and then I'm just going to come off my wrists for a moment and just let that be okay. Reset, and then come on back down. Palms down on the floor, shoulder blades squeezing, almost like your arms are pillars, and your chest just gets to hang, or your whole spine really just gets to hang between your shoulders and your hips. And then press and release in on the block at your feet again. Really tuck your chin and let your head hang so that it pulls on the levator scapula. Those scapulas start to be able to stay down on your back a little better. Squeeze, release, squeeze, release. So some people have bodies that extend in one place, either because there's a spondy, or because they've had a disc issue, or because that's just the way their body has found to move, maybe because there's a rotation somewhere else in their body. And those people might experience some pinching. So again, if that happens, then stay in a more neutral position and still try to get balance here. Awesome. Go ahead and take the block away. come down onto your belly and grab your strap. And then just hold onto your strap. You could also use a bungee cord for this one. Pigeon toe your feet and put your hands up like floor block position. Hands in a gentle fist, holding onto the strap. They can be a little wider than your shoulders. And I want pigeon-toed feet, forehead resting on the floor, just arms lift, 10 lifts. And then take your hands behind your back, palms out. We're going to find other muscles in those shoulders. Forehead down again. Arms reaching up off your back as far as you're able to. Shoulders can come up onto your back. Just take it up as high as you can. Release it back down. And then just let the strap be down and see if you can take it, both hands all the way up and back. Some people may only be able to do one arm at a time, and that's okay. Up, back, around, palms up here, up, around, palms down. Up, around, palms up. Last one. And then back up onto your hands and knees. Connect that together with some cats and dogs. You can decide here if you want to really control the articulation of your spine. Let's do a couple of those. So tailbone lifts through your low back, middle back, shoulders, head, and then head down, neck, middle back, belly, low back, tailbone pointed down. Keep the upper back where it is. Articulate low back through the middle of the shoulders, upper back, and down, upper back, lower back, tailbone. And then just move however feels good. Stay with that, or just make it a little more fluid. And then bring your, let's go left foot forward today. Left foot forward. You don't have to do this, but this would be helpful. I'm going to take this strap and put it around my rib cage so that I can feel where my breath can move. So kind of like a heart rate monitor would go. That gives me something to breathe into. I'm also going to move my pelvis around, but I want my rib cage to stay relatively still. So see if you can come into that lunge position. And then with one leg back and one leg forward, see if you can tuck your tailbone and then move your tailbone back. See if you can keep the ribs stable and basically do a pelvic tilt with one hip forward and one hip back. That's a pretty hard position for the pelvis to be able to move like that, but you can do it. So connect tailbone back behind you, tailbone down toward the floor. That's going to pull a lot on this knee or leg that's bent there. Those muscles are already lengthened, a lot of them. Good, and then maybe see if you can just go side to side a little bit. So you have a pelvic bowl. In the pelvic bowl, you have pelvic floor muscles. And when you take 1 foot forward like this and 1 foot back, you're asking for the pelvic floor, one side basically to be open and one side to be closed. It's a really different demand than, for instance, both legs being like this. Go ahead and switch sides. Come into your lunge position. And then same thing here, pelvic tilts, tuck your tailbone down and then lift your tailbone and feel it move on both sides. Sit bone has to come towards the tailbone and then expand away from it.
If you have pain in the front of your leg, does that just mean you have really tight quads?
The back leg or the front leg?
Yes, the back leg.
The back leg, yeah, it could mean that you have really tight quads. Yeah.
Are you evenly distributing the weight between the two sides, or are you leaning forward?
Pretty even weight right now.
Okay, it looks like you're leaning forward, but you're right. This is very difficult. It's cool, but difficult.
Yeah, maybe a touch forward, but I have pretty even weight between the two sides. To tuck, and then maybe side to side. Explore just how that pelvis can move over the thigh bones with very little movement in the rib cage. Nice. Come back to kneeling. Grab your block again. We'll stay with this little external rotation. These can go slightly wide. So ribs over hips, over knees. Get into that solid position and then relax your belly. Unless you feel like your pelvis is really dumping forward, then you might need to help it with the transverse abdominis, that muscle that we would push out like this. That would help you come into better alignment. If you have really, really tight hips or quads, that might be where your body wants to go. And then you need to help it by engaging some belly muscles. So if it's easy for you to be here, relax your stomach. If you feel like that's really tilted, then pull it under just a bit. Squeeze and release with the inside of your feet, 20 squeezes. And feel deep muscles in the hips on both sides working. And then release. I'm going to take the strap off this, unless you like this strap here, because you can focus more on breath. You may leave it on. I'm going to go ahead and take it off. Come down onto your back. Come into a hip crossover stretch. So arms out to the side, legs down, cross the left ankle over the right knee, come down to the right. And then you can just explore here a little bit. What happens if you pull that knee towards you? Where are the butt muscles that feel like they're at their edge? Or open that leg up and go into that external femur rotation. That's going to ask for more extension along one side of your back. This way, pulling in is internal femur rotation, and you can bump up against the edges of those tight glutes. So you can go back and forth here a little bit and just feel that. And then at some point, maybe after 4 or 5, press your knee away from you, gently tuck your shoulders under and just hold it and breathe. I'm pushing my knee out now and allowing the femur to rotate outward slightly to affect the whole pelvic girdle and lumbar spine. Shoulders can find where they maybe want to move down your back in a bit of an anti-shrug. And you can even press your hands down enough that you can feel your triceps. Come on up and switch. Left, right leg over left, coming down to the left side. And then again, just play with that leg bone as you pull it in. Find the edge of the butt muscles that are tight. Press it out. Feel that femur be able to rotate outward. And maybe go back and forth a few times. In, feel where the tightness starts to pull. How is it between the two sides? Is it similar? And then eventually hold it out there and let that leg bone talk to the pelvis, talk to the low back. We use hip crossover a lot to reduce a pelvic rotation in somebody's body. If there's a pelvic disparity, something happening differently on one side than the other, this often can move it out or bring more balance to the two sides. You can think of the pelvic floor is affected here by the difference in the leg bones. There's a slight rotation of the spine, and there's a different demand between the loaded hip right now, which is my left side, and what needs to open with that right side, and how the left side of the low back has to be stabilizing in extension and gets to really turn on, and the right side actually gets to just kind of release. Come on up when you're ready. Both feet on the ground, pelvic tilts. Think of that pelvic bowl again, tip it backwards. Feel your tailbone move down and arch. And go back and forth between those two positions. Excellent. Come on to your hands and knees. Come into a hand leg opposite lift. Taking it up, finding that stability, bringing it down, sweeping it right back up, hand and fist, heel going away from you, down and up. Switch. Find your breath. Keep breathing. And then once more, cats and dogs. And then if you can, grab your block and sit on it. So you just lift it up a little bit. That's going to help your spinal position stay activated. We're going to go into so we've done external rotation. We're going to go into some internal rotation now. So put one foot up, and if you need to put your hands there or anything, what I want you to do is begin to take this leg into internal rotation, and you might decide where that foot needs to be to feel okay about that, and just go to the place where there's not pain, but a little bit of movement happening, and then bring that leg back up. Slowly move into internal rotation, and then lift it back up. Let's do that 10 times. And then set that leg out, then this other leg up. Might be different from one side to the other. You can see this one doesn't want to do that right away. There we go. So, of course, if you had pain in any of these, I would ask you to skip it. And get the information from it. Good. Okay, come all the way up to standing. Just feel how that feels a little bit in your hips. You might need to walk around on that a little bit. And then let's do some squats here. So from this position, let's go free squat. Take your arms out, down, and stand back up. Now your knees can go ahead of your ankles right now, that's okay. But I do want you to keep this good line between your hips and your ribs and your shoulders. So go ahead and come down that way. Instead of letting it round, keep that pretty straight and stable until you feel like you get to the place where your tailbone wants to move down toward the floor. So find out where that is for you. Coming down, and let the ankle coordinate with the knee and the knee with the hip. Just notice, is there differences between the right and left side? And then just stay down there. Lift your heels off the floor, hover those. So find the back side of your body and release it down. You could place your hands together like foundation training arms, pressing your fingers and kind of pulling your arms apart. Hover your heels off the floor. Find that whole back side of your leg, calves, hamstrings, glutes. Let them go back down. Lift, lower. Lift, lower. And then see if you can take your feet and turn them out and heels elevated, and just go down as far as your body will allow a squat to happen, kind of a frog squat. Toes turned out, knees out, getting that really open hip position. And then use your butt muscles to stand back up. Do that one more time. Down and press. And then we'll work on that hip hinge a little bit. Feet back to straight. And then hinge at your hips, slight bend at the knees. Feeling all of these muscles that work down the sides so that we're using this big ball and socket joint to come up. Press your hips through and back down. Let's do 5 of those. Down and up. Working that hip hinge. Awesome. All right. Standing, one leg, bend the knee. Now you could hold something behind the knee like your yoga block if you wanted to, or just keep that knee in good alignment. I'm going to do that so that my hamstring is even more active. And then with this balanced standing, I'm just going to lift this leg out to the side, keeping my trunk, my ribs, and everything as stable as possible, and bring it back down. So 10 times, lift and lower. Good. Keep it there. I know it's tired. Hold that. I'm going to take the block out. Hold that knee in that same position. I want you to bend over a little bit and then bring that knee right up. Down, so hip extension. Hip extension. Back, hip flexion. Up. Hip extension. Lift that leg up high to the sky. Feel your glute and hamstring and everything working. And that standing leg is working really hard. Whew. 2 more. Awesome. Woo, shake that out. Second side. I'm going to hold that block again behind my knee, knee down. 10 lifts out to the side. Rib cage as stable as possible. You could certainly use a chair or a wall just to help you balance if you needed it. Awesome. And then little bend over. So hip extension, get it up there, pull it all the way through, flexion, all the way back, all the way up. This is your hip hinge here on this side. That back leg, it's moving like you're going to sprint. Whew. Shake it out. Onto your back. feet on the floor, knees bent. I'm gonna grab my block here just to give my adductors a little activation. Lift your hips off the floor, push your knees that way, and go into that hip extension here. Feel the back side of your body, find your glutes, shoulders open, maybe tucked under gently, and then back down, 20 lifts. Notice if your hip bones are even, and when you go up, do you have an even activation in the glutes, or as close to it as possible? For that last 10, I'm gonna go up onto my toes just to get my calves, the soleus, to activate a little bit more. Hoping that'll bring my lower leg into better alignment with my knee. Just working that rotation the whole way around the leg. And release. Squeeze in on your block, so neutral pelvic position, shoulders, squeeze and release. Find those adductors just on their own. Keep going, 20 more. Squeeze, release. Release your block. Stretch one leg straight. Hold that right leg in toward your chest. Circle your foot all the way around, 20 circles. Shoulders down and back. Reverse. Point and flex. Switch. Reverse. Point and flex. And then roll onto your hands and knees and push up into a bent knee, downward dog. Toes under, knees up. Downward dog. And you can go back and forth a little bit between kind of crouching cat position, hands really stable. Feel this side body that's underneath side right here. And then press it up. Feel your thoracic extension happen. Get full. Take a deep breath between your shoulders. Come forward one more time. Hold that position long. You can even look up, move your jaw around. And press back. One more time. Come forward. Lift your head up. jaw movement and back. And then just come to standing and feel how that feels. Hopefully, that brings some better alignment into your system. And go ahead and have a seat or lie down, whatever position you'd like to be in for meditation. So as you come into your sitting or lying down position, start by noticing where your body connects with the floor. And then allow that to just become sensation in the space. Bring the attention to the breath and allow that to move in the space of your body. Also as sensation. Take a deep breath that you control. And let it expand into all the spaces in your ribs. Push down on the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor and the diaphragm have this dynamic relationship between the two. See if you can sense that for a moment. And then just allow the breath to function completely on its own. And bring attention to the space between your eyebrows and use that as like one point of concentration. You could also imagine a flame or something that would keep your attention or awareness on one spot. And then allow yourself to drop back and just experience all of those as sensations: breath, body, concentration in this space. If thoughts arise, just ignore them. In the same way, if you wanted to take a nap and people were knocking at your front door, you would say, "Not right now." Ignore them. Whatever arises, simply don't give it attention. Instead, rest your attention on that single spot. The atoms and cells and molecules that make up our physical body are infused with light. And that light can be healing light. That light can have a frequency of kindness and forgiveness and peace. And when we come to rest our attention on this space, we allow more light to come into our bodies, to fill the space of our being. To cultivate health and joy and peace. Begin to feel your awareness move back to your breath. And just breathe in that space. And as that breath floods your body, and your attention to that breath, bring all that joy, good, health, space, kindness, love into your body. Begin to feel your body once again supported by the floor. Remember that in that grounding support is this community. And that with each vibration of joy, peace, kindness, happiness, we emanate that from our beings outward. Go ahead and open your eyes. come round and check in.